And Roland, this COVID-19 has affected all aspects of our life, and for me, I shudder to think about the effect it will have on cocoa farmers, especially. They do the hard work, they get the least of the profit. So if you throw in this hardship into the equation, I think it becomes a very complex.
Yes, and very much so. You would remember that about 2 years ago, there was a summit that Ghana and cocoa producer, our neighbor Cote d'Ivoire, held right here. And it was to be able to form some big coalition in a way as big producers, because we form the majority, the larger part of the producer countries in the world, so that we can control some level of pricing.
Yeah.
And it was about $400 per metric ton.
And I remember lots of people were excited about
exactly,
that
because if you look at the capitalization of the whole industry across the world, it's about 100 billion.
Okay.
And we only get 2.5 billion.
Not fair.
For the respective countries. So it means 5 billion, and they were targeting about 10 ultimately. If you take a look at how we can put value to it, we talk about it in the textbooks, but we really, and I'm sure you have written it in your exams about how value addition needs to be done, but it still remains a textbook issue. And I'm hoping that maybe a day will come that we'll be able to do that, just consuming beyond what we produce here.
For me, it's a challenge to the especially to the NPP administration, because they were the people that campaigned on the back of industrialization, campaigned and said that, look, we're moving this country from an economy that's focused on production to industrialization.
Yeah.
Now
I remember the phrase that Gejsbegian. You remember that one? It was very hard to pronounce all the time. Gejsbeg.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that the onus lies on people like that to prove that we can actually do what we say. And another election is beckoning, and I'm looking forward to hearing.
It looks like we've forgotten about all that. Yeah.
What else is there to say?
We haven't achieved that. We have to be realistic.
But to be fair to the administration, you can also talk about the effects of COVID-19, and they will go back and say we inherited a terrible economy and all of that. Well, that's why we put you there, to fix the problem. So fix the problem. But again, to be fair, there's COVID-19. I'm looking forward to see what new promises they're going to put on the table, especially for moving from production to industrialization, and what focus they're going to give to cocoa farmers. The Agric Minister always boasts about his father being a cocoa farmer. I want to see how the lives of cocoa farmers have improved in their next manifesto.
Oh, that's a very poignant point to make. But what do you think about it yourself? Make sure you get interactive. We have Facebook Joy News on TV. We also do have a Twitter handle at Joy News on TV. MyJoyOnline.com is always available for you. Get on there, because it has a strong link to what you listen on Joy FM, but also through our YouTube channel, Joy News TV. But we told you about that interaction. Second day of the pilot exercise of the Electoral Commission, and what a way for us to start this great conversation. Mixed reactions here and there. And Dr. Bright Akwetey is Executive Director, the Institute for Democratic Governance, known to many of us.
Dr. Emmanuel Akwetey. Bright Akwetey is the CPP.
Yeah, his
brother,
lawyer. His brother too. His brother too. So, and he will be joining us, and we'll have some great. Bright substitute for Emmanuel. Good morning to you. Doc, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
What a way for us to have a conversation.
Doc, it's good to have you, and I hope that your night was good.
Thank you. Yes, it's been good. God is good.
I just have a few messages. Maybe I can go through some of my messages before we get on with the conversation.
Please do, Gifty.
So this message says, good morning, sir. I want to react to the issue of people coming to register at EC centers and vote. She says most of the nose masks are made from our local textile clothes, so textile is okay. People can use their head scarves and similar clothing materials to cover their noses and mouths. You can breathe through them, sneeze into them, and cough as well. She's giving you some ideas if you want to get to the registration center to, register. She says, look, if you don't have a mask, and then just go.
Because so the normal one layer.
It's okay, I'm here.
No, it's okay. I'm
here. The TV was too loud, so I needed to put it down.
Oh, it's all right. I'm just reading for you some messages, to start our conversation.
Sure he was talking to you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So again, some more messages here. NPP. Okay. Wait. NPP primaries will confirm. Okay, this one is talking about the NPP primaries. NPP primaries will confirm Akufo-Addo as flag bearer, and EC pilot registration are not coincidental to the lifting of the coronavirus restrictions by Akufo-Addo. I saw some rather interesting messages. Looks like I've lost some of them, but yeah, keep your messages coming through about the registration. Okay, let me take this final one. EC pilots new voters registration exercise in time of COVID-19, where 89 nurses in the country have been afflicted by the virus. The Electoral Commission thinks just by wearing face masks is enough for them to expose Ghanaians to their sinister agenda by the Jean Mensah-led EC and Akufo-Addo. Madam EC, you are treading on dangerous and slippery grounds which could lead to serious confusion and chaos. So, a word to the wife from Ablade, Efia Kuma Zongo.
Fantastic.
In Accra. So those are some of the messages coming in. Yes. We're looking forward to more of the messages.
Yeah, and it's good that they are related to our conversation this morning. And I have to first ask you, Dr. Emmanuel Akwetey, were you part of the pilot in the first place? Because I know a number of personalities were invited to be part of the pilot by the Electoral Commission.
Come again.
Were you invited for the pilot exercise?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Okay.
I wasn't, and I didn't expect it. No. I think it's purely, it tends to be EC-centered thing.
Okay. But there's been a general reaction to this, and from my perspective, I would say that it's been mixed. What's your own reaction to this in the first place? A day, 2, 3, and then the first day of the pilot exercise for the Electoral Commission?
Well, I think we should also allow the EC to do its work, okay, the way it thinks fit. That is where, for me, its independence is loudest, operational. It has equipment it wants to test, whether they are old or new. It has a plan to do that. What we expect from the EC on D-Day, when the registration starts, or we are voting, is the efficiency of the first-class order. If that is not happening, you know, they will be taken on. So it's a good thing they've started, because we have barely 6 months to elections, okay? And that means that we are running behind time. At this time in 2016, a whole lot has been done. Now here we are struggling. Registration hasn't started. There is conflict over what register to use. We haven't resolved. There is patent frustration and disillusionment towards the system in the general public. And we also have violence threatening, not only because of the conflict over the register, but also because vigilante violence is a reality confronting us now. Now, for a EC that must see to creating all the conditions that would enable citizens, the electorate, the EC is there principally to serve the electorate, that the conditions under which they would go and cast their votes would be one of the best. They are safe, it's peaceful, they don't feel intimidated, they are well informed, and they are secured enough to make independent decisions when the day comes. And that means there are so many things on the EC's table in the next 6 months, some of which should have been done already, but COVID-19 also took part of the time, plus the conflict. So I think it's a good thing they've started. They've signaled that, and to many, that really this is the start of the process that will lead to the December 7th elections. Is an important one, but compared to all others, this probably is going to be rushed, and we are going to have to pray a lot so we attain a level of efficiency that we've never attained in the 28 years, and that we all come to it with a common purpose, a unity of purpose, that our democracy must be stable, must be consolidated, so that post-COVID development, we can come together to deliver that. And that's an onerous task on the EC. So it's good they've started, but I hope going forward, they will open up to listen to critical comments. They would seek to work with all groups, because it's a multi-stakeholder game. And in that case, we all want to see one of the best elections organized in December.
And we're here, first day, now second day, because the Electoral Commission has a plan. Now, what do you make of the roster it's put out, because it's been influenced greatly by the COVID and the delays, etc.?
I haven't seen the roster, but if we are looking at this, the timetable is proposed, what we know really is that late June to late July is the time to do this. And the 1 month it has to test its new equipment. Because of the confusion or the conflict, we are also not sure if the EC might be thinking of options. If situation gets out of hand, that is a conflict, and it must look at what options to pursue to ensure that the elections take place and there is less conflict, less tension, less threat of risk of violence or disease or whatever. I'm not sure how it is handling both, but I think that the best way forward now is that the EC probably has to look at testing its new equipment, much as it also looks at sanitizer, or looking at how its existing system could also operate, just in case. So I don't have, I haven't seen what roster you're referring to, but in my mind, they are going to start the registration, they are testing it. The registration for me, I think the newly eligibles and those old eligibles who didn't register, when I've asked the question, the projection is around 1.5 million. Okay, I think it's not too large a number to expose to the health hazard, the COVID-19, because within a month, to bring 17 million people out each day, voting and so on, for me, it's too large an exposure. It's too risky an exposure, no matter how low the numbers are, because we do not know enough about COVID. Top scientists and top labs are still working on them, and they are all saying huge public gatherings, consistent presence in the public space ought to be discouraged as much as possible. And I think that for me, that is where my worry is, that the EC focus on compiling on general registration, not limited. General registration means that approximately 17 or 18 million people, the projection is 18, would have to come out within a month in the peak rainy season, and with a registration that requires identification that are not any different from those that we used in 2012 and in subsequent updating of the existing register. I think it's an uncomfortable situation to be, because it doesn't give clarity in terms of how all the necessary conditions will be met for us to have peaceful and credible elections. So let them test the equipment. By testing the equipment, I'm sure EC will be going to other parts of the country, because Accra is not Ghana standard. You know, everywhere you go, it's like Accra. No, even within Accra, you will find other parts of the country underdeveloped, with infrastructural constraints, with different cultures, with different understanding of the processes and so on. So it's going to be a tough task for it. I wish it had more time, but when you don't have more time, you seek to build bridges and compromises so that you can get greater cooperation. And that's the challenge it's facing, not just the machine and register and let's test, but the environment, the enabling environment that will enable it to deliver and achieve its goal. It's important. I think we need to support the EC, but it also has to, the EC must listen to good advice and act in a way that makes it serve the people of Ghana to the best of its ability.
Doc, you raise very pertinent issues about timing, efficiency, about the ability of the EC to listen to the people. I just want to find out regarding efficiency. The pilot took about 2 days. For you, is that enough for an election in December?
Well, I think it wouldn't be the only pilot, okay, because you are talking about 17 million. people. Sometimes machines are funny, and EC has the experience of sometimes they've tested their machines on a large scale, but come election day, other things happen. Machines are machines, even human beings. We can't always predict what would happen. So I anticipate there would be testing the machines in different contexts. If you take, for instance, airport residential, or cantonments, or Roman Ridge, or airport hills and so on. These are places where you're going to see that all things constant, things are going to work perfectly, well-informed, organized, and so on and so forth. Go to Nima, go to Medina, go to Kaswa, and the dynamics are already changing. How people understand it, how confident they are that just staying in the queue, it would also be their turn. We have a tendency of wanting to fight for everything. We are orderly in terms of queuing. That I would tell you, we excel and we are highly commended for it. But in terms of patience, waiting to be served, and just respecting the next person in front or behind you, we don't see. So the queues move, and the body contact, you see, the body-to-body contact and the gathering, physical gathering, it can be crowded just instantly, and it takes the police and everybody and so on. So it is not just a testing of equipment. Probably it would also have to be a testing of their COVID-19, restrictive or restrictions, and how they would work well, and so on. So there are many pilots going to come on, not just a testing of the machine. They are returning officers in certain more densely populated areas. How would it go? Areas with a history. Yes, go on.
Doc, I'm just wondering, is it what you anticipate, or is it something would happen for sure? And it's 2 days enough, really? Is that what you're saying?
No, 2 days is certainly not enough, but I'm looking at what had happened in the past. The EC is an old institution. This will be the 8th consecutive elections is organizing. In spite of the change of leadership, the EC is EC. It's procedures, it's traditions, it has people who are very highly experienced and so on, with structures all over the country. And every election has something unique about it, whether it's an issue of conflict or what. And the EC has officers who do this. So I'm looking at what is done in the past. In the current context, I think in the past, the EC had more time than now, which is not entirely its fault. COVID is COVID. And so it's now going to have to operate within very strict, limited time. And that calls for greater cooperation. Otherwise, these processes will be delayed. So you're talking about 2 days. I do not think 2 days pilot test in Accra is enough. You have to go to the other regions. Maybe the newly created regions are maybe sparsely populated, they are new and people are still moving or whatever. So you may not have to deal with huge crowds. Okay, the 6 put together is just some small percentage of the people that need to be registered. This is general registration. So for me, you cannot say 2 days pilot test makes you ready to register 17 million or 17 to 18 million people as projected. You cannot. Piloting has to occur in different environments. So it's both an advice to ECs, both based on the knowledge we've had in the past, and until the EC gives us the details of what the pilot is. You see, in the past, it communicates. It will tell you what it is going to do, and the cooperation it needs, the education it needs, and so on and so forth. So I cannot know much more than what I've seen, but my mind tells me that 2 days pilot, and new equipment, even new cars, when they are manufactured, the engine goes through a whole lot of tests before they are certified. And when you receive it too, it would go round and see. Sometimes some will work perfectly, other times there are glitches. So more pilot testing, and that's why it has 1 month. I think it has given itself about a month or a couple of weeks before late June, and we're in the first week of June. So I expect more pilots. And adjustments.
We'll try and get some more clarity from the Electoral Commission, but I just wanted to chip this in that, Yesterday, there was a process, part of the piloting was done also in the Volta region because we covered it, also in the northern region because we covered it. I don't know about the other region, I'm not quite sure. So it wasn't just an Accra-centered process. Okay. So I just wanted to chip that in to help with the analysis.
Thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, but you...
So what's the feedback from that?
Okay, so I have to say that we spoke to Dr. Srebo Kwaku, who said the piloting is for 2 days, yesterday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And that's the piloting they are doing to simulate how would-be voters would be registered when the process starts. So that's the communication. And are you saying that they are not then communicating enough and 2 days is not enough?
Well, it depends on their findings. That's why I said we should also give them the space. They make a determination of, they know the equipment they have the data, they know the behavior of people who go to the registration centers. So there are a number of things. It would have been good for them first, I wish they were on this program, to explain in detail what this testing is about and what is meant to achieve and what would it inform. You know, because whether it's enough and 2 days enough, that one I cannot, you know, we depend on what they have said. And that's why the EC must publish fully its schedules, its plans to execute things. For example, we only know that late June, late July, there will be registration. When is the MOPA now? When would be the validation? What form would the validation take? When do they finalize the register? And going forward, what happens? We do not know now, but its calendar it published initially has been disrupted by COVID. So I believe they are come out new, but the communication is so vital. So we know what it is doing, and we can assess, we can critique, we can advise. So I think you need to bring the EC on board.
Regarding the...
To give us the details.
Okay. You raise another issue with efficiency. And I just want to get your thoughts on the relationship between the timing issues you have raised, the efficiency issues it breeds, and what it has to do with acceptability of the electoral results. What do you see?
That is far away, the acceptability of election results, because we're just starting the process, registration. Even the registration processes will go through a whole lot. And that is where the conflict issues are very serious. It's a general registration it has proposed, and there is serious conflict over that. Fortunately, this is the first time that we have an existing register, but also, which is biometric, and then we also have a general registration taking place, also with a new management system. Okay, if you look at the context, the time constraints and the COVID context and all, it gives the EC options. Okay, now, when I talk about efficiency partly depends on how the EC organizes. Okay, its personnel, its equipment, the station, the polling station, how it's organized, the timing, the materials it must have in place, and so on. In the past, EC has tried very hard to make sure that distribution of materials, sometimes they run late, sometimes they delay. They do the best they can, but they operate within a general infrastructure, which is not efficient. Our infrastructure in this country doesn't give the level of efficiency you require, especially when things have to be moved and where things have to be stored, and so on and so forth. So it is not a person thing, but it is the general infrastructure within which it operates. And then it also has to do with our understanding of the processes and what the EC is seeking to do. And therefore, with that education, taking instructions from them, just obeying for once what they say we should do orderly. Don't go here, don't go there, come one after, wait, and so on. Sometimes the EC can come under a lot of pressure from citizens around polling and the polling stations. And it could be quite sometimes disorienting, you know, because the people are impatient. Ghanaians are generally impatient when they come to these queues. There would be some movements and shaking and so on. The EC may be shielded off by the police or observers around it or party agents and so on when it's doing this. But generally, efficiency is affected because there would be some rowdiness. The process has to be stopped. The police have to come in, or some police, other additional police. You see, so it's a combination of factors. It's a combination of factors. Now, on election day itself, we know that machines suddenly don't work. They break down. Materials run out. Or certain things have been forgotten. Not all polling stations have everything exactly it should be. Sometimes even power in the machines, and things have to be charged. And so it's not a situation that is totally under the control of EC. Just like we operate in this country. Some things work well, others do not. And they operate in that situation. That is why we think that we shouldn't just say that, for instance, South Korea did elections, parliamentary elections. Yeah. It wasn't parliamentary and presidential. It was just parliamentary elections. And by the way, they didn't have to undertake general registration of voters. Okay. But South Korea is a very efficient state. The bureaucracy is different from Ghana in many ways. The speed with which the technology they have, the discipline around what they do is phenomenal. It has enabled them to transform the economy even from a war situation within 30 years. And now look at where they are with their Samsungs and all that, electronically, technologically, and so on.
Yeah.
So it's a first world. We do not measure up to that efficiency. What about Mali and Guinea? Guinea did a referendum, but Mali did elections, or even Burundi. If you go to these countries, then Ghana is the most efficient. So efficiency is relative to context, and experience. But I think in our circumstances today, with the COVID context, and the threat of the infection hanging on us, I think that if EC wants to do things with this limited time, it must be super efficient. And super efficiency means all the parties are collaborating, all the stakeholders are collaborating with the EC. There's a unity of purpose and direction, because the EC gives direction. And to the extent that the EC hasn't secured that condition, I thought it could have done a little more to build the collaboration, to pursue collaboration, find other ways of tackling or dealing with the conflict. Conflict cannot make you efficient because you are not moving in the same direction. You are arguing. When you want people to move, they are arguing. They are angry. They are upset. They are threatening. So how can you be efficient? You can't depend solely on the machine. In elections, part of it is the machine. The other part, larger part, are human beings who must behave in a certain standard way. And the EC ought to create that conditions. I'm afraid it hasn't created that conditions in the way it has handled this, but it hasn't run out of time. I hope that we can quickly find the space and the mechanism for building that consensus it needs and that collaboration. How do we do it? In 2015, we had another issue with Register. The campaign for a new register and opposition. It was the same thing, MPP, NDC. NPP wanted new register, NDC said, no, use the existing one, and so on. And they couldn't handle it within IPAC. So the EC appointed eminent persons, the late Justice VCRAC Crab of blessed memory, and then Most Reverend Asante, Professor Asante, Peace Council Chair, and so on, were among a team that sat and decided that the mechanism they should use would be a workshop. And they did not see the parties as the only stakeholders. They wanted others, think tanks, voters, various organizations to come into the conversation. So they organized this workshop, and they had people, they had technical analysis, they heard what people had to say, their anxieties, their fears, and so on. It was their report that led to the decision to use the existing register. And Justice VCRAC Crab, the late Justice VCR, is not somebody you push around. Okay, It tells you what it is, and you either do it or you don't.
Yeah, and
it's the same with Professor Asante. So mechanisms can be looked for us to build the collaboration, because the EC is a leader in this situation, but a leader must have followers, and it needs to charm the followers into following.
Right.
At the moment, they are all dancing in different directions, and it is dangerous.
Right. So